Barcelona had a rough day today. Barcelona had a really rough day today because Barcelona was playing in the Champions League quarterfinal up 3-2 and playing at home against Paris Saint-Germain, and that had a 1-0 lead. 12th minute goal from Rafinha that actually made the match 4-2 on aggregate. It looked like Barcelona was going to cruise. They were playing incredibly well. And then something terrible happened for Barcelona. That something terrible was actually before the match, so I've misled you with the timeline here. But we're gonna get to the hilarious, terrible thing that happened to Barcelona before the match, because during the match something terrible happened too. That set off Xavi, right? And I want to preface this with, I've made a few videos dumping on Barcelona. I have. I'm transparent about that. Kind of hard to hide from it, when you publish things on the internet. But I was rooting for Barcelona in this game, not just because I've been dumping on Barcelona a lot recently, but yeah, I feel like Barcelona's fans in particular, with the financial issues and the bad vibes and whatever, you probably used a win, right? PSG's never been my cup of tea, so Barcelona, go ahead and take your dub. Announce yourself as a serious Champions League contender again. I picked Barcelona on stream, and I was hoping that they would win, which should have been a curse in itself, because Barcelona from that 4-2 lead then had this happen. And this was Julian Araujo committing what looked like, in real time, a bad foul. I'll let you be the judge of that. Yeah, it doesn't look good. Right? I mean, I understand, if you're the referee and you're back here and you see that type of contact and you see a guy go down when it looks like he's about to be in on goal, I understand the decision that was to follow, which was the referee walking over and promptly issuing a direct red card and a free kick in 29 minutes. Now, I'm usually partial to the penalty kick yellow card combination, but what's particularly infuriating if you're a Barcelona fan here is that when you watch this on replay, it's very clear that this is the amount of contact that Araujo makes. And then this guy goes down. Now, I want to be very clear in my praise as well, because this is a tremendous dive. He makes this look like a real serious foul with a guy in on goal, right? He makes it look like a real serious foul with a guy in on goal. It is one of those types of plays that if you have VAR, I would love for somebody in the VAR room to eventually have the guts to overturn something like this, but it's close enough to a foul that you send it to the VAR, they're not going to consider it a clear and obvious error. But anyways, I understand at least why the referee is making this call, just because of how well done the dive was, and that was a very believable looking foul and an obvious goal scoring opportunity. But that didn't stop Xavi from being set off. Then I do think that's a little disingenuous, because at the time of that foul in the 29th minute of a game at home, you're up on aggregate 4-2, at which point PSG manages to score 4 more goals. Ousmane Dembele scoring in the first half, Vitinha, then Mbappe again in the 89th minute, just to make sure. There was a great clip of Ousmane Dembele on the bench smiling. He got subbed off, right? And he was getting jeered by all the Barcelona fans. Of course, he is a famous financial flop at Barcelona. Of course, then his hamstrings quit faster than me on a diet, so he was doomed from the start. I don't really blame Ousmane Dembele for that, but Barcelona's fans do, even though Dembele kept it respectful after the game. There was just a great video of him kind of laughing and smiling on the bench as he realized PSG was going to pick up this win. A particularly brutal win for Barcelona that it's safe to say Xavi is not taking well, because he unloaded after the game. He said, "It's pointless to discuss about the game. The referee destroyed it all. We can't stay silent. He changed the game in the entire tie. It was a disaster." Obviously, with his complaints, he's not talking just about the red card, but the red card is obviously the huge thing here. I don't think it's entirely unfair to have called that a red card. If you believe that is a foul, even if it is a small one, it is a denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity, and it's a red card. If it was against me, if I was a Barcelona fan, I'd be furious, and I'd be begging for a VAR official that did have the stones to look at that and go I know he made a little contact, but that's an obvious flop. But there's no VAR official on the planet Earth that's going to consider it a clear and obvious error when you see the play that just happened. And it happens outside the box, and so he's got to give a red and a free kick instead of a yellow and a penalty. Now, does it change the tie? Absolutely. But that's not the reason you gave up 4 goals. I mean, being down a man is tough, right? And PSG's obviously a very good team, particularly on the attacking side of the field with Dembele and Mbappe and so on and so forth. But 10-man OP. You can batten down, particularly at home, you can batten down the hatches, and there was still 71 minutes left to be played there. 61 minutes. I hate math. He also said it's a pity our Champions League is over due to a referee's mistake. I just told the referee that he's been a disaster. It's the reality. Look, Xavi is obviously hot, and the emotions are high, and it's an incredibly difficult thing to play in the Champions League knockouts and feel like you let an opportunity get away from you. But it's also, I think, ridiculous to suggest, assuming that he is alluding again to that penalty call, that was the only reason, right? To say the Champions League is over due to a referee's mistake. Referee mistakes happen all the time. You ever watched the Premier League before? I mean, you just kind of have to deal with it. At a certain point, it's not like, unless it's proven, right, that the referee's making the mistake on purpose, which Xavi also kind of insinuates. He said it was, I think his quote was something to the extent of like, oh, the refereeing was interesting, and I'm using that in place of another word, like trying to suggest that the referee might have been bribed by PSG. But I mean, like, unless you can prove that, being a referee is a very hard job. Refs make mistakes all the time. I wish they didn't. We should just have robo referees and then the world would be solved, right? But it's not the easiest job in the world, and referee mistakes are part of the game. And clearly, Barcelona did not handle that mistake very well, and Xavi's kind of latched onto that as the reason that Barcelona is out. Now, I will side with him on this. I do believe that based off the way the game was going, if that red card did not happen, then I think Barcelona probably wins the game. But that's enough of the context, the background, and the entire game, because my favorite part of this entire event was what happened before the game, because I saw a headline that I, quite frankly, couldn't even believe. It's like the funniest thing I've seen. Now, fans, they get so passionate, they get so carried away, and I understand that. But every once in a while, that passion, and literally the physical manifestation of that passion, which is the blurriness that is brought about by flares, can lead to you doing some stupid things, right? And here is the scene before the game outside the Barcelona complex. Here's the scene. It's a pretty cool scene, right? I mean, this is a scene that's been repeated all over the world for absolutely massive matches. It's a very large police escort through an absolutely rabid crowd. We've got a bunch of people filming it for their Instagram stories, which is, of course, a very important part of this process, and an absolutely incredible number of flares. And what are you going to do when you're driving the bus of the opposing team through a crowd that's this wild and rabid? Well, you're going to expect to be hit by a few things, obviously, and that's where we're headed here. So here comes the bus of the opposing team, and 3, 2, 1, boom! You see that? You see all that flying over there? That was a flare being absolutely pelted into the side of this bus, and it was not the only one. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to go all, soy boy 21st century fake fan on you. Like, I understand that while it's probably not a great thing for health and safety, fans in these situations are going to throw, hopefully not rocks or anything harmful, but maybe a beer cup or two is going to be chucked at the opposing bus, and that's going to happen, and that's fine, and nobody gets hurt and whatever. There is, however, an issue when you realize that is not the opposing team's bus, that's Barcelona's bus, and the fans mistook Barcelona's bus for PSG's bus and started throwing things at it. This is not the only angle I could find of flares being drilled at Barcelona's bus. We've got another excellent shot. There's another one. Fun fact about that video, it's also the loudest video ever made in the entire existence of humanity. But yes, Barcelona's fans were so fired up that they were pelting their own bus with flares. Maybe this is some sort of pump-up tactic that I'm not familiar with, right? You're trying to fire your team up. You're trying to put the fear of God in your own team just to get them going, get them revved up, get them ready to play, get them chomping at the bit, Roy Keane style, ready to just take out somebody's kneecaps and then just gnaw on the bone or something absolutely maniacal. But I can imagine if you're on the Barcelona bus, there must have been a mix of confusion and probably just having a good laugh about the whole thing. I can't imagine this actually had a big effect on the game. It's just hilarious that you get so jazzed up you can't tell the difference between the two buses and all the smoke, and you just start pelting your own bus. Well, you're really defeating the purpose of what you're trying to achieve there, which is the art of intimidation. I think the next time that Barcelona ends up having a huge match at home, they should just roll the windows down and start throwing things back, or just hold Lamine Yamal out the window so that they know what bus they're aiming at. You don't want to hurt the golden boy. Seems like a good strategy, although that's probably against some sort of child protection law.